this video sponsor made this type of conversation make sense right now. Okay, I was sponsored with a 300 amp hour lithium battery that's heated. So let's talk a little bit about lithium batteries. There are some things that people just don't know, and some things that don't really make sense, but it's true. So there's three types of lithium batteries: the kind that have no protection to the cold, and the kind that have protection to the cold, and then the kind that actually heat themselves so they don't get cold. The reason for that is because lithium batteries, to be honest, do really well in the cold. If you grab your drill or you go and try to use electricity from a lithium battery in the freezing cold, it'll give it to you. The problem is when you start to charge it. You can run into problems when you're charging it when it's below 32 degrees. So some lithium batteries just come with a warning on them, and people live in Arizona and they're never going to get below 19 degrees or 20 degrees, or they're never going to freeze their lithium battery, right? So they don't care. The next thing is the kind with a BMS system that will automatically turn the battery off, right? If the battery gets too cold, the system will kick on and will make it impossible for the charger to charge. Now, typically what you will see is automatically your battery will go from whatever you're at. So let's say you're at 11.9 or you're at 12.1 and you're ready to actually charge it. Once you put the charger on, within like two minutes, your batteries will show 14.1. That means that your BMS, your battery management system, kicked in and is not allowing that battery to be charged, right? So that is the first two ways that you get around the cold. One is just never go in the cold and don't worry about it. The other one is to have a battery that knows it's cold and to turn it off. Second, or the third option, is what I have here. And I actually have all of them here. I can show you all of them. So 200 amp hour battery running my diesel heater, and that will turn itself off if it's too cold to charge, okay? Two 1000 amp hour bricks right there. They don't know if it's cold or not. They don't know what the temperature is, okay? My house batteries, and the other option back here, I wanted to point this out before we go back there. Here's my house battery bank, and there is that 12 volt plug right there. If I run out of propane, I plug the refrigerator directly into that. So the house battery can now run the refrigerator if I need to. All right. No, I don't keep my chainsaw out here. I was doing something for another episode that we'll talk about coming in spring or later in the year, basically. I'm going to start doing throwback episodes where I show people how I built the last 3 houseboats that I built. And I will narrate, I'll show video and time lapses of building it, and I'll narrate now what I should have known back then, and I'll tell you what I did wrong and what I did right. Looks like it's going to be a 12 to 16 part series, and I'll probably just do throwback Thursdays. So, you know, starting later on this spring, once a week, it'll be like a 3-month series of going through and showing how I built houseboats and what I did wrong and what I learned and what I can teach you. So, coming back to this sponsor. So Vatrer has kindly given me a 300 amp hour heated lithium battery. Now, this thing weighs 58 pounds. So if it was a lead acid battery, you're looking at well over 200 pounds worth of weight. So it's a significant change. Look at it compared to my other 100 amp hour battery. So it's not a small battery. It does have an app that we'll go through and show you how you can see on your phone what's going on with it. Now, the reason why we're going to go through that app is because I want to show you something about the heating of it and how these cells work, and I want you to understand something about lithium batteries. Not necessarily just this company, but every lithium battery out there. We'll kind of take a look at that. So this battery, it runs at 12.8 volts. It's 300 amp hours, obviously. You can charge it with a maximum charge of 200 amps. So typically you want to charge around 60 amps, but if you need to bust through a charge and get it done fast, you can pump it up to 200 amps. It has 2,560 watts and 3,840 watt hours built into this battery. So 90% of the use of the battery is done above 12.4 volts. So it can, if you have a motor that won't run underneath 12, 90% of this battery can be used to run like a trolling motor or something like that. It's unbelievable. It's great for my refrigerator if I run out of propane. It's insane, the amount of power that can come out of this battery, and the fact that it will use only 3% of its power to heat itself when it's 19 degrees out and allow me to charge it even when it's 19 degrees. It's pretty amazing. Now, a lot of people are opting, they're going to say, well, okay, now you need solar panels. I have seen and been in Arizona where solar panels are the best option and one of the only workable options out in the middle of nowhere where you have to go get gas. But in Tennessee, Kentucky, I know people with 900 amp hours of solar panels, and they have 900 amp hours of lithium batteries, and they're still running their generator every once a week at least to get by. If you live in Arizona, solar works for you, and you don't even need a bunch of it. I've seen people run 300 or 200 watt solar panels into a 200 watt battery, 200 amp hour battery, lithium, and they are running an entire darn house. My point is that there is a very logical argument to just own a generator if you're in the northern area and not even have any solar panels. However, in my situation, what I've done is the batteries that are hooked up to solar, which are the 2,000 amp hour bricks, they each have their own solar panel. They do all of my entertainment. So, and spare lighting. Like if I have lighting out front that I'm moving around, I'll plug it into that. Typically, if I'm plugging in something with a USB, it's going into one of those two batteries. The 200 amp hour and the 300 amp hour I charge once every week or so. One runs the diesel heater. The 200 amp hour is running the diesel heater, and that is it. That's all it's running off of it. And then my new battery, the 300 amp hour heated one, is out back, not taking up any space in the cabin because it can heat itself. And it is running all of my cabin. So the lighting, the indoor lighting is mainly, that's what it is, but the pump and everything that I plug in right there. So if I'm using my vacuum, I plug it into it. And if I'm lighting up fixed lights that I have outside of the boat, I'm using that. So one thing that I'm gonna do is put a lot more lighting on the boat now that I have this. So the reason why someone can't stick all these batteries together in one bank or two banks is because the cells are very different from each other. And when you make your own bank of lithium batteries, what you want is for all of the individual cells to be running at relatively the same power. So if you look down here, cell 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this battery are all within 0.1 of each other. They're all running at 3.2, 3.2, 3. They're all in the 3.2. And if you look, they're all relatively close to the same temperatures. Now this is where it gets tricky and why having a bad cell is a real problem. You take the 3.2, you add it up, you end up with 12.8. That's what it runs at. But let's say one's not at full potential, it's only running at 3. It limits all the rest to 3, which means you're starting out with 12 volts going down. Not good. The other thing I want to show you is I'm going to turn on a light that I found here. Look at this. I just turned on this light, and the light is kind of dim. And look at it's saying it's pulling 10.5 watts from the system, 13.1, right? Now, this is the same exact light. I'm going to show you a picture of it as the one right next to it. There's something wrong with this light, right? The wiring. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to go turn on another system, another light right here. So I just turn on the same exact light right next to it. And look at the wattage. It doesn't even show as a tenth of a watt or an amp. So I've already figured out that one of my lights is almost shorting out or doing something wrong to take away a significant amount of power. That's 10 and 13 watts like that is more than a cell phone would draw. And this is just my overhead light was doing that. And I had no clue it was happening until right now. So until I put this system in to check everything.